Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to my very first podcast episode. I'm so genuinely excited to be here with you. This podcast has been tapping me on the shoulder and wanting to be birthed through me for a while now. And I've resisted, I've questioned, I've second guessed, I've tried to be perfect about the whole thing, which is impossible. And anyway, here we are. I'm finally doing it and I'm excited. So you might be wondering, what is this podcast going to be about? You might have ended up here because we have maybe worked together. Maybe someone has suggested that you take a look at this podcast. And with it being my very first podcast, and with me taking this leap before I know the destination, the answer is I don't fully know what this podcast is going to entail. And that's exactly what this first episode is about. The topic of today is really around taking a leap before the path has been carved out, before you even know where you're going to be headed towards. So if you're on my email list, you might have seen an email come through recently with a message around taking that step before you're ready, not waiting until you can see the final destination or the path of how you're going to get there, just taking that leap regardless. And so that's what I'm doing here. I am leading by example. I am going to carve the path as I go. And while I have some things in my mind about what I want this podcast to be about, I don't know. I don't know what exactly it's going to look like. I am waiting in as much anticipation as what you are. So as I say, sometimes we just don't know, but deep in our bones, there is a next step that needs to be taken. And even if we don't know where we're going to, we just know there's this inner quiet voice, this gnosis within us that says, go this way, move in this direction. So even when it's uncertain, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's illogical, but it just feels true and right, that's the path that we want to trust and we want to learn to follow. Now, for most of my life, and I would say the majority of humans, we have been taught to think about our future, to plan it out. I remember being in I think it was grade 9, being told that, I need to know what I want to do for a career. I had to pick certain subjects at school to go and study that were going to set me up to walk into a path of whatever future awaited. I was 15 at the time. Who the heck knows what they want to do or be at 15? If you're one of those magical unicorns that knew at 15 what you wanted your life to look like, amazing. That is so cool for you. It's just that's not the majority of humans. So for me, for most of my life, I've been really quite structured and quite intentional about where I wanted to head to. I've lived my life very much in what we would call the masculine, needing to have a plan, to have goalposts, to have this destination that I could achieve once I finally went through this hardship and this struggle. I did school and then I went and did the psychology degree and then I went into masters and then I started a private practice and everything was about this progress and moving towards some end goal. But that becomes really unfulfilling very quickly, and it also leads to you constantly seeking more, meaning that you can never truly just be happy with the process and enjoying the experiences along the way. And I know I have a number of clients who have talked about wanting to study psychology or wanting to go and learn something. And they might question, am I too old? I don't know if I want to be a psychologist or a doctor or a dentist or a hairdresser, whatever it is. I don't know if I want to be that by the end. And this is where I am constantly guiding people to look at, what do you want to experience? What do you want to learn more about? So as opposed to where do I want to get to, ideally, if you're learning and growing in things that excite you and, challenge you, that's going to take you to a path that will be fulfilling because you're constantly on a fulfilling path. So, as I say, for me, I was always looking at like the next goal, the next destination, like where I was trying to head to. And yet, in the end, life took me somewhere very unexpected. And right now, I find myself between two worlds. Like, I still really love the depths of psychology. I love that I have learnt so much about the human mind, about human behavior. I love that there are these frameworks and these tools and this structure that we can kind of, sit within. And there's this way of understanding humans based on repeated tests and experiments and explorations and evidence. And that's really cool. However, there are some things that I know to be true that science and logic doesn't get. And that's my intuition. That's a deep wisdom held within my body. It's what we would call a knowing or a gnosis. And if I always look to science or psychology, where is a space for creativity? Where is a space for spontaneity? And this is what brings me into the other world that I have stepped more into, which is one of soul alignment. And so while I don't have a rigid plan for this podcast, because it will be an unfoldment, here's what I do know. I have so much that I want to share. I literally spend so much time thinking about all the things I want to share with my coaching clients, information I want to put out into the world. And like, in all honesty, like I keep feeling avoidant because I think that there is so much information being shared, and social media, it is flooded with people's opinions. So there has been some resistance in me to figure out, well, what do I have to contribute? What is it that I have to say that is of value and would actually be of service to people? And while I don't know exactly what that is, this podcast is going to be a way for both me and you to find out. But what I do know is that I feel a deep calling to share whatever wants to come through me on this platform. So I know that. And I also know that I've had incredible mentors that have deep wisdom, incredible wisdom that they share, and they have shared it with so much generosity, and they've shown me the power of that that was kind of the tipping point for me. I really felt compelled to create something for me to just give freely information, wisdom that I hold, in the hope that there are some people out there who maybe don't have access to this information. Maybe they don't know that it exists. Maybe they can't afford to see a coach, a healer, a psychologist, a spiritual person. Maybe they don't have access to that. And so hopefully through this platform, if you're one of those people, this is going to be readily available. I have learned so much through free content, like so much. When I think about how much I have paid for my university degree and for ongoing education, and while it has absolutely been valuable, the things that I have learned, that people have been so generous with their time and their wisdom and their sharing of information, I just know that that's something I feel called to now give back. And what I have to share isn't going to be for everybody, but if you're watching this, hopefully it's going to offer you some value. The other thing is that I have the most dynamic conversations with people, with friends, with strangers, with clients alike. And I really want to bring some of that richness here. So there will absolutely be guests that I am so excited to have conversations with, to interview, to I wouldn't really say interview. I will ask questions because I'm a curious person and it's in my nature and it's in my professional background. But I really want to be able to have real, raw conversations that are expansive and that give people the ability to be a fly on the wall. Because sometimes when we are either the questioner or the one being asked the questions, we don't really have time to take in the information. And I always find it so valuable to watch a dialogue take place and to not be part of it where there doesn't feel like there's any pressure on me to contribute in any way, shape, or form. And instead, I just get to receive the downloads. I just get to receive the information that is circulating between, two or more people. And so I really hope to have some juicy, deep conversations here for you to be able to access. Now, the other thing is I am passionate about a lot of things. I have a Gemini moon, so my mind goes from one thing to the next. Sometimes so does my mouth, and I've really learned to fine tune that and to try to stay focused. But I have to say, my little Gemini mind, sometimes she gets excited and sometimes she goes off on these tangents. So I'm going to try and keep it as focused as possible. But that means that there will be a range of topics that are covered here because I am not just one part of me. I am all of the parts. I am the science. I am the spiritual. I am the structured. I am the flow. Like all of it. And the thing is so are you. So I hope to be able to give you some, diversity here where things might seem in conflict. They might feel contradictory, on surface level, but hopefully they allow you to access and reveal parts of you that maybe you didn't know existed by me revealing parts of me. So what you can expect is conversations around spirituality, so both grounded and mystical, around psychology, but in a useful way, in a way that will be soulful and accessible and helpful for you to do some of your own work to understand what's going on for you. You can also expect conversations around relationships because I freaking love talking about relationships. It could be because I was born on Valentine's Day, but I love love. I love talking about love. I love supporting lovers to come together. I love supporting individuals to love up on themselves. I love the love that we can have for the universe and that the universe has for us. So love, relationships will absolutely be a part of the conversation here. And as I say, when we look at the love that the universe wants to give us, that does invite conversations around the universe, around God, around what is this energy, this life force. Now, I don't preach from a religious perspective. I preach from a soul perspective and what my lived experience and where my studies have taken me in the hope that something will resonate with you. But as I always say to my clients, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And the sad reality is that the word God has it's so loaded. It has, so much negativity attached to it. But when I anchor into the feeling of God, for me, it is just all encompassing of everything in existence. It's not some white man up in the cloud that, is ready to slap us on the wrist when we do the wrong thing, is here to judge us in terms of whether we're going, to a good place or a bad place after we leave this place. That is not my interpretation of God. So yeah, I hope to have some of these conversations because my relationship with God, with spirit, with source, existence, whatever you want to call it, the universe, has been such a profound part of my journey, my growth, my capacity to cope in this crazy world. And so I really want to share some of that with you in case that resonates, in case that lands. So we will also talk about polarity, the masculine and the feminine. Some people are aware of that, some people aren't, but looking at the dynamics that we experience, both within and without in our relationships with others. And I am also very interested and excited to share more around psychedelics and psychedelic medicine. It has been another controversial but key thing that I have seen have such an impact on healing and have experienced the healing benefits of it. So there's going to be so much stuff for us to cover. I can't wait. Now, in terms of the frequency of these podcasts, you can trust that a weekly episode will be dropping in. So if you want to make sure that you know when a new episode is available, you can hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss a thing. You'll get notified. And better yet, you can join the email list via the link I'm going to pop it in the description box. And then that way you will be kept into the loop, not only in terms of this podcast, but in terms of any offerings that might be available. If you're interested in coaching, if you're interested in any of our programs, then the email list is the best place to get access to that. Or alternatively, you can follow on Instagram at Empowered by Shannon. So lastly, I genuinely welcome feedback. I love feedback. I love knowing what's serving and what's not. I love making sure that my time is being used wisely and it's being received in the highest way. So, if this feels like a space where you can learn and you can evolve and you want to be part of deeper conversations, then let me know. Let me know. Reach out with your thoughts, with your ideas, with your suggestions. Just make sure you come from a loving place. My skin maybe isn't that thick just yet. So that's it around, I guess, the structure of the podcast and where we're at and where we're headed to. So to talk more about today's topic, and this is something that, I've been really sitting with, not just lately, but for the last several years. Sometimes to reach somewhere we've never been, we actually have to be willing to walk a path that we've never taken. And so when we try to be planned and structured and have this vision of how to get somewhere, in my humble opinion, we actually don't know because we haven't done it before. We can look at research, we can, get advice and feedback from other people, but we really don't know until we take the leap ourselves. So for example, me creating this podcast today, this episode, like I've had to figure out the technology around it. I'm going to have to look back at it and see what my thoughts and what my reflections are. There might be tweaks that I want to make, but until I actually took the step and until I actually did this, there was nothing for me to reflect on. There's no tweaking for me to make because I haven't created anything to then grow and evolve into something better. So when you're wanting to go somewhere new or you're feeling compelled to go in a new direction, the reality is you probably aren't going to anticipate accurately where it will lead you to. And this is like the magic in life. Like, who wants to know, if you go and watch a movie, are you one of those people who is like, I want to know the ending, like right at the beginning? I want to know who was the murderer at the beginning of the murder mystery? Or do you want to go on the adventure and the journey and really get your like $20, whatever it costs now to go to the movies? Do you really want to get your money's worth by being taken on this adventure? Life is a lot like that. So yeah, I really invite you to consider what might be emerging for you, what might be wanting to be birthed through you. And to contemplate the idea that, the more that you try to control that birthing process and how it's going to take place and what it's going to look like, the more you try to plan, and have all of this kind of structure and guarantee a particular outcome or to perfect the process, the more you might actually block what wants to emerge, right? Because it might be something really beautiful and really creative, but if we have this vision of how it must be, we might not let the unfoldment take place, which means we don't let the magic manifest as it wants to. It's more in our vision, our eyes, our mindset of where it's going to end up, instead of allowing it to be what it wants to be, whatever it is. This podcast, it's going to have a life force energy of its own. It's going to get to be whatever it wants to be. It sounds a bit crazy as it's coming out of my mouth. I'm hearing it. However, bear with me. It is going to take me on a journey, not the other way around. Like I say, we get so fixated on the goal, the end result, the productivity, that we forget that life unfolds right here in this breath, in this moment, in each tiny, brave, uncertain step forward. And that's what I'm learning to embrace. So this podcast for me, it's not about arriving at a perfect destination. It's about creating, it's about following the nudge and allowing something to evolve through me without needing it to be polished or to know what's going to happen with it. This is me taking the first step. Letting it be imperfect, letting it be true, letting it be real, and trusting that if my soul guided me here, then this is exactly my right next move. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. So now I'd like to invite you to reflect. What has your soul been nudging you toward lately? Where, like me, have you been hesitating to take a leap, maybe for financial reasons, maybe because it doesn't make sense, maybe because you've wanted to perfect the process before you started it? And what would it simply feel like to take one small step in that direction? So not the whole plan, not the full vision, but just one step that feels aligned. And it could be purchasing the software or the technology. It could be exploring that art class that you want to attend to. It could be wearing your hair in a different way. It could be saying something new. It can be anything, but like, what would one small step be for you if you were to actually tune into your soul? And usually when our soul is speaking to us, it's like this niggling whisper. It's like it won't let up, and it just kind of circles back around, and often we like shoo it away like a little fly, and so then it just comes back around again, and then we're like, oh, I know you, but yeah, go away, it's just kind of a pipe dream, it's not possible. We shoo it away, and then it keeps coming back. This is when our soul is really trying to get the message across to us. What is your soul trying to tell you? What's the message it wants you to hear? And if you were to listen to that message, what would be that first little step you would take without knowing where it's going to lead you, but being open to the journey revealing itself as you take that aligned step forward? Now, if something in this podcast episode sparked something in you, a thought, a feeling, a knowing, I would truly love to hear from you. You can reach out to me, as I mentioned earlier, at Instagram, Empowered by Shannon, or you can reach out via email. The link is in the description below, hello@empoweredbyshannon.com. So if this podcast moved you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone you think would really resonate with the content and that it would impact. That is my desire, to have more impact, allow people to have access to information, conversations, community that maybe they otherwise wouldn't have access to. So you might be that bridge that brings somebody into a space where they get to feel liberated. They get to explore all kinds of parts of themselves through the topics that we discuss here. So thank you. If you are still here, God bless you. I so appreciate you. So until next time, keep trusting that inner pull and just know that you're always being guided. You are always supported and you are always loved. Sending you my love. Have an amazing week, and I'll see you on the next one.